If there's one thing we've learned about business and life, it's that people are the X factor. They constantly surprise us, both in amazing ways and not so much. We're Ben and Syya, and welcome to the Gnaw on This Business Bytes podcast. This show is all about real life things we all deal with every day, how they relate to business, and how to make some sense out of our daily chaos. Welcome to the show. And welcome back to another episode of Gnaw on This Business Bytes. I'm Ben, and this is Syya. And the question is, decisions by design. Are you intentional or are you reactive? It's amazing to me how many decisions are made day to day, week to week, year to year in a reactive mode. This has happened. We have to make a decision. We have to move forward. We have to put this out. We need to get a press release, whatever. It's amazing to me how many people make decisions in panic mode. Instead of taking that 10 seconds, stopping, pausing, figuring out where they are, figuring out what the real problem is, what are the intentions, what are the ramifications of moving forward in this versus that, and then moving forward. It doesn't always have to be 6 months of analysis paralysis. It sometimes can be as little as a couple of minutes of conversation. And we need to get better at being intentional in our decision-making process. We need to think about it. How are we making decisions? What are the factors that we're using to make our decisions? Do we have a decision-making tree? Do we have a purpose, mission, vision, value statements that we sit there and say, okay, these are not just words on a wall. This is how we make our decisions based on these ideas. These are our customers. This is what our customers want, need, and desire. This is how we help them get better. Okay, make the decision based on that. We need to be intentional in how we make decisions. So, Syya, let's gnaw on this.
Oh boy. So I'm a fly by the hip kind of girl. So I'm laughing. I was laughing when you first posed the question because I was like, I'm a big fan of just like where my gut is for that moment in time to make a decision. Typically, when you order food, for example, like I'll just like I'm not the kind of person that stares at the menu and reads every freaking dish. I'm like literally the first dish I see that goes, and I'm done. Usually, I'd say I don't look at a menu longer than 30 seconds. I will have made a decision. If it sounds good, I'm going for it. Um, and then I put it down, and then I listen to everybody else talking about the menu and whatnot, right? And if it tickles my fancy, I might relook at it. But I am like the kind that's like, that's it. I'm done. I'm decisive, and that's it. Never mind. It could be literally a list of all my favorite foods all at once. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to waste my brain energy more than I need to. It's good enough, whatever dish I pick, you know? Now, that being said, that's great for food and restaurants. It may not be the best decision when you're running a business, right? Or you're running a department, or you're putting together a project or whatever for a client or for yourself or whatever. So I do think making educated decisions is going to be the key. The balance is between is how much education you need, how much data you need to make your decision, because what you don't want to be is on the other pendulum swing, which is again, like you had mentioned, analysis paralysis, where I mean, like I said before, it took me 3 years to buy our car, right? Like, and by then the models all changed. I had to re-up that Excel spreadsheet was a total joke as far as I was concerned. But it tickled my brain that I thought I did the research I needed, but I ended up going with the car I always wanted from the jump, just so you know, you know. So uh, that is the easy happy. Now, when you're under time of duress and you have to make a split decision, that is when I find for me, my personality type is make that quick snap decision, which hasn't proven itself to be the best route either. And I think that is something where certain personality types might just fare better under those types of conditions than others. So how is it that they are able to do it and make better snap decisions versus me? For me, my answer is slow the F down. Like just
Mm-hmm.
slow down. Like if there's a situation going down, don't make a rash, don't jump off that, cliff just yet and build the parachute, which is my MO. Slow down because sometimes that's not the right way to go. And if anyone's curious what's going on this noggin, the visual is literally me and my boyfriend not arguing, constructively conversing with one another in Paris.
Healthy conflict. Healthy conflict.
Yes. Oh yes, let's go everyone go back to the healthy conflict conversation. But I won't say we were lost. We were in indecision of where we wanted to go. And we
Hmm.
also didn't quite know where we were located at the same time.
So it's really hard to get to where you want to go if you don't know where you are. But
But isn't that the root of like the
that's the
question
root
you
of this whole
pose?
conversation.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So reacting to a situation may or may not be the best move. Um, it just really ultimately depends. Again, back to um, what the what is the insight to though? Like, if it's really important, I would like to think people are taking the time to make the decision and give it the respect it needs. If it's something that's not important to you, flash decision, reactionary, I don't think it's a problem.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, when it comes down to what are you going to have for dinner? Yeah, analysis paralysis. I'm like you. I look at the cheesecake, etc. menu, and it says, okay, I've had this, this, and this before. Those were all good. Okay, I'll take that. I tend to be the one that keeps the menu closed, listen to everybody else decide what they're going to have, and then I'll say I'll have a number 14. Just like I'm one of these people that says, you know what? It's food. It's
Yes.
the Cheesecake Factory. They probably don't make anything badly. And if it's something bad, guess what? I'll have something else. Or the next time I'm there, I'll order something different. And it's right. There's very little ramification when it comes to stuff like that. But when it comes to, is it going to affect somebody else? Is it going to affect business? Is it going to affect clients? Is it going to affect somebody in the matter of your team? How is it going to affect the matter person? Like,
Yeah.
why is your decision more important than their gaining their information before you move forward? There's all these side things to think about. You know, Analysis paralysis is the other side of things where people just gather information, gather information, gather information, gather information, gather information, and then never make a decision. And that's a problem too.
Right.
That's a problem too, because sooner or later, as leaders, we need to be willing and able to pull the trigger, even if that pulling that trigger says we're not moving forward with this. But eventually we say, you know what, we've gathered enough information. This is not viable. There's no ROI. Sorry, I know we've spent $10,000 getting to this point, but better to spend $10,000 now than $100,000 later.
Later. 100%.
And so there's that, but you got to eventually pull the trigger. And when you do pull the trigger, and you do pull the trigger negatively, you got to be able to communicate why you decided what you did. You don't have to give everybody all the hay in the barn, but you need to sit there and say, you know what? We've looked at this. We've ran the analysis. We looked at market share. It didn't make a lot of sense. We thought this was going to be a viable product. It's not. This is what we learned from it. We're moving forward, and we're moving forward without this program. But that's analysis, and that's taking the time to figure out what are the key decision making criteria that I need to be able to make a good decision. What are the things that are pertinent? What are the things that are not all the fluff because cousin Joe had a problem with a blue car once. And so I'm never going to buy a blue car because one time one day cousin Joe had a problem with a blue car. So therefore we're never going to buy a blue car ever again. That's not relevant data. But what you need to do is you need to be able to step back and say, what are the things that I need to know and understand to be able to make a decision, quickly gather that information as humanly possible. And that, as I said, it might be an hour, it might be a day, it might be a week, it might be a month. It sometimes it takes a month to make that decision. But if it takes a year, it better be a multi-trillion dollar project.
Oh, goodness gracious. You depressed me again, sir. You need to really stop that. Um,
What did I do this time?
Well, no, you just reminded me of a project that's still not done in our house, and we've done our research on it, and it's still not done, and we haven't incented ourselves to finish it. And it's everyone knows there's always a honey-do list in the house, right?
Always.
But uh, but this is a bigger project, and uh, for a person that likes to say I will jump off a cliff and build the parachute, like there's also complacency when you decide to not make that decision too, right?
Hmm.
And to live with it. And I just realized I've been living with my non-decision for a long time, and it's like maybe it's time to suck it up, Buttercup, and get it done. You're
But
just so
here's here,
it's just
but here's
so
the thought
depressing.
process on that. Not making a decision is making a
It
decision.
is true, absolutely. And I've been apparently comfortable with that indecision. And it's gotten to the point where now in my brain I'm thinking, was it a good call? Because I'll just say it, master bath. We've
Yeah,
been supposed to do. I've told you about my master bath reno that's never renoed.
exactly.
I'm chuckling again because it's like, had we done it 10 years ago when we were supposed to, 10 years ago, my tastes have evolved. So now I'm kind of
Yes.
laughing at myself, going, I'm kind of glad I didn't. But what is my taste now? And then I
Hmm.
think about it, I'm like, well, my taste is going to evolve again. Why bother now? Now then I went back. Now I'm back to the no decision again, which is stupid. Anyway, sorry.
Well, and we all have those projects in our house. To us, it's the kitchen. We know the house is a 1986 house. It's the original kitchen. The cupboards are getting to a point where they need to be done. Now, but we need to decide, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Are we going to, are we going
Pain
to,
the wazoo.
are we
Pain.
going to paint? It's the pain of moving out versus, of staying home and all that kind of stuff. And trust the non-decision has become a decision. So the project just gets pushed back. So we've made a decision, mentally or not, that this isn't a big priority in our lives, and therefore it's not gaining a lot of traction in our lives. If both Heather and I both said, you know what, this is important, we need a new kitchen, and this is what we want it to be, that kitchen would have happened last summer, and we would have lived through the chaos. It would have been done. We would have hated it during the process, and we would have loved it on the other side. But because it wasn't a priority, because it wasn't, there were other things to spend money on, there was other things to spend time on, there was other things to spend energy on, that got put in the back burner, and that indecision became a decision. And I think that we need to acknowledge that at times, is that sometimes we make decisions unintentionally that that actually have some intentionality. The psychology behind this is okay, by not making a decision right now, I'm making a decision that this isn't a priority in my life.
Yeah. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Thanks. I needed to hear that.
Now,
Audience, is there anybody else?
whether your boyfriend agrees with you or not, that's a different story altogether.
I'm totally like, this is not going to be a therapy session for Sia today, sir. We are not going down that path. Because I'm literally just kind of like I'm at that. And anyone in the audience, you know that moment when one of you or your partner are just going, I have no comments. Yeah, I think we're done. I'm done. I cannot speak anymore.
So so I look at this and I go, okay, let's look at intentional versus reactive, and then we can land this plane. Is that there are times being reactive is a good thing, and it's usually when it's low grade, it's low consequence,
Yep.
it's something that it is absolutely rectifiable, very, either cost effectively or without, you know taking your reputation at stake or whatever it is. It's something that's easily rectified or easily changed. And I think that if we just have reactive decisions at that level, those are fine because they don't take up a lot of our brain space. We could just say yes, no, maybe, go for it, done, and move forward with it. But anything that I think that takes into consideration other people or has ramifications on other people's lives, businesses, clients, etc., we need to take a pause and we need to sit there and say, okay, what is our intentionality behind this? Why are we doing this? Why is this important? Who is this going to affect? How is this going to affect them? And is this going to make our lives better by moving forward? And is this going to make the lives of the people that we're trying to influence lives better as well? And if we can do that, then we probably have got a good decision-making tree.
I love it. I love
So
it.
let's leave it there. I'm Ben,
And I'm Syya.
and we'll see you soon.
Hey, hey, hey. Thanks for listening to another episode of Not on This Business Bytes. If you liked what you heard, we most humbly ask that you like, share, and hit that subscribe button. If you want to communicate more effectively within your organization, contact Ben at IamBenBaker.com or me at BrilliantBeanMedia.com. We can help you build your community, brand awareness, and personality through digital content and podcasting. We cannot wait to hear from you. See you next week for another episode of Gnaw on This Business Bytes.